Okay, so today's topic, as I'm sure you all are aware, when Elon Musk purchased X, the app formerly known as Twitter, back when it was still known as Twitter, the app soon to be known as X, he installed what was honestly one of the best features of any social media, which was the ability for users to add context. Now, sure, this has been misused on occasion, but most of the time, the community notes feature has been a positive. And by most of the time, I mean 99% of the time, because even when it's misused, it very quickly is corrected. As people, begin to add further context to the community node and they correct the community node and they do all of these things, and it allows for users to not let themselves be misinformed, and it allows them to prevent others from being misinformed. And it's overall a very good thing. This, however, had well, I'm not going to say unforeseen because everybody saw this coming, but a happy side effect. Now, that side effect was that professional fact checkers kind of stopped being necessary, especially because many of those quote unquote professional side checkers, fact checkers, were very partial, politically speaking. There were those who were extremely right wing and those who were extremely left wing. By putting it in the hands of the general populace, most of the time you're going to get factual information because people are going to see something that they think is wrong and they're going to research it and they're going to go, this is wrong, and they're going to post the real thing. And so overall, we kind of got rid of the politically partial, the politically possessed, the ideologically possessed fact checkers. And by doing that, we got rid of more journalists. Big dub. But it would appear that our boy, Upper Echelon, has something to say about the death of the fact checker. And I am curious to see what exactly he has to say and to judge him for it. Because, I don't think Upper Echelon likes journalists, but if he does, I'm going to make fun of him. And if he doesn't like journalists like me, I'm still probably going to make fun of him because he's going to say something funny in the video.
All right. Most people watching this are probably quite familiar with the term fact checkers, but just in case you're not, it's a term that implies arbitration of the truth, oftentimes with regards to politics, at least in the United States, and it's a concept that is extremely rife with controversy. On one side,
I feel like the idea of controversy, a lot of the times, just means discussion, right? Because if there is no debate about whether something is right or wrong, if something is just wrong, it's not controversial, it's just wrong. If something is right, it's not controversial, it's just right. For there to be controversy, it means that there is discussion, it means that there is arguing, it means that there is some level of discussion happening. So controversy isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means, heat.
you have a common belief that misinformation is an existential threat to democracy and that those who spread it or otherwise say things that are incorrect as per the agreed upon narrative at the time should be completely removed from social media and public.
I do believe that disinformation is a very dangerous thing, especially when it's allowed to just run rampant. The problem is that a lot of these politically inclined fact checkers are spreaders of disinformation themselves. All they do is spread disinformation that is beneficial for their own side while being, bad for the other guys. And then try to combat this information that the other side spreads on them. By including a third party that consists of everybody else, you kind of can take both sides out of the equation, and people kill disinformation at birth.
Public discourse. On the other, you have advocates of free speech who believe that suppression of that right is a far worse offense than any misinformation could ever possibly be, while rigidly asserting that whether or not something is true or goes against public perception or even offends the sensibilities of their fellow citizens is entirely irrelevant because the
Well, I feel like he's right that these people exist, right? But it's also true, in my opinion, that stifling free speech is one of the fastest ways to a dictatorial regime. That and forcefully disarming a populace, right? Like, if you need to bust into people's homes, point guns at them, and take away their property, you're the bad guy.
The right of the speaker to say it transcends any potential right for the government, businesses, or social media platforms to stop them.
Yes, unless it's a threat of violence or it actively threatens somebody's physical well-being.
For the past few years, it almost felt like background noise, at least in my view. It was
Yeah.
certainly happening, fact checking all over the place, but there wasn't really anything we could do to change it. Private social media companies are going to do whatever it is they want to do. And maybe long term impacts like governmental regulation over a multi year period resulting from certain elected officials might have some sort of impact. But boots on the ground, normal, everyday people had very little effect on the overall concept of fact checkers.
Until your boy Muskie Wuskie bought Twitter, the app soon to be known as X.
Without getting too far into the weeds, fact checking was particularly prevalent during the rise of COVID 19 and is also extremely common when it comes to political discourse.
And it's also where fact checking lost almost all of its political trust, right? Because during the rise of COVID-19, right, all of that controversy, a lot of the times fact checking was used not to actually like correct misinformation, but it was used to crush people that were trying to speak on the matter, whether they were for one side or for the other. So you would have doctors like the creator of the RNA vaccine saying, hey, this vaccine isn't meant to be used like this. This is going to cause harm. And then that guy was removed from the public. Like he was just completely his public presence was completely assassinated. Killed his career entirely because he had the audacity to say, "Hey, I don't think that what they're doing is wise in the long term." That's a problem, right? And the same thing happened to a bunch of other people. Like the thing that happened with Joe Rogan. Like I'm still amazed that they went as far as to edit pictures of Joe Rogan to make him look less healthy in order to paint their narrative that he was taking horse dewormer.
A couple
Even though ivermectin is used by people, so saying that he's using a horse dewormer, no, that's false. Yes, ivermectin is on occasion used as a anti-parasitic medicine by equine cattle and other animals. However, in a lot of poorer nations, it is used as an anti-parasitic and as a viral medicine, which is why it was effective for COVID-19 and a bunch of other stuff that was really effective. And the response wasn't, okay, let's investigate, let's see how good this is. The response was, okay, if you're talking about this, we're going to come after you.
of high profile examples would be when fact checkers adamantly labeled or shut down, rather, discussion of the Wuhan lab leak theory for COVID 19, the origins of it,
And then it turned out that was true.
or the Hunter Biden laptop story, which took hold at the climax of the 2020 presidential race.
Which also turned out to be true.
You might actually see down below this video right now some kind of stupid little blue banner with a link to like Wikipedia or something because I said COVID and Hunter Biden laptop, and YouTube is making sure you know the truth with some boilerplate, here are the facts kind of statement about
No banner this time.
whatever issue it perceives me to be talking about.
Because usually those banners are only put up if it's on the title. Like if he had put COVID-19 in the title, then there would be that banner.
I had that happen recently with a story about leaked files
Yeah, see, he has Area 51 in the title, and so automatically there it is.
on a hacking forum because I mentioned Area 51 with this dumbass definition of what Area 51 really is down below, even though it had basically nothing to do with the actual video.
Yeah.
And there was nothing
Yeah, it's because it detected the Area 51 keyword in the title.
even remotely untrue that I said in its entirety. But regardless, fact checkers over the past 8 or so years, it feels like, became a pretty ubiquitous concept online. That is, They were until now. It's a bit of an unexpected news break in my view, but recently Facebook, now called Meta, is apparently distancing themselves from the idea of fact checkers immediately before the incoming Trump.
Which is fucking hilarious, right? Like it is. It's such a bad decision, right? Because the left side, the people who dislike Trump, are going to see it as, oh, he's kowtowing to the tyrant. And the people who do like Trump are going to see it as, ah, see, they were using fact checking for malicious purposes, and now that Trump is in charge, they're taking it away because Trump's going to come after them if they don't, right? So it's just a bad decision overall. It would have been much better if they had done this without it being part of without it being directly after Trump gets the presidency. It should have been they should have done the same thing as Twitter when it was shown to be successful and when it was shown to be good. And I definitely think that they had the chance to do it. Hello, Smelly Jupiter, how
Administration
you doing?
takes power, which has led to a very interesting divide in public opinion about whether or not that's a good thing. As I said earlier, one side says yes, the other says no. But I want to take a deeper look at the announcement, what it means, and who it impacts, because in my view, it's a very clear turning of the tide, if you will. And I wouldn't be surprised if we look back on this 5 or 10 years from now as an inflection point in the world of online discourse. My premise is very simple. Fact-checking, in its basic rudimentary form, is absolutely good and extremely necessary.
Yes.
However, fact-checking as we see it on social media here and now today is a complete joke, governed and manipulated.
Because it's not actual fact-checking, it's a political bludgeoning tool where the fact-checking doesn't even need to be like against it, right? A lot of the times, you'd see this happening a lot, right? Where like somebody who was in the Biden cabinet would say something that is just outright false, or in the Hillary cabinet while she was running for president. They'd say something that was outright false, and then a left-wing fact checker would say, this is actually mostly true because of the things that she said, only the last sentence was false, which is what people were saying was false and is what recolors the entire statement. And like Trump's the whole thing with Trump, the whole find people on both sides, which was just a fucking lie, right? I think everybody at this point knows that was just a fucking lie. He did not actually say that there are fine people on both sides. He said there are fine people on both sides, except for the white supremacists who should be condemned entirely. Right? He wasn't talking about those guys. He specifically outed those guys as being bad. But the fact checkers immediately, the left-wing fact checkers immediately started saying, oh, he said find people on both sides. He was referring to the white supremacists. And completely ignore the rest of the clip, right? And that's why people stopped trusting the fact checkers.
Manipulated by people who are deliberately bastardizing the concept as a result of their own intrinsic bias. And if we can't strip the system down to a much more neutral baseline, it really just shouldn't exist.
Yes.
Here's the announcement.
But it does exist, right? Community notes. That is the baseline, right? You have people who know these things, and so they say, hey, the thing in this tweet is incorrect because of this additional context. And then other people vote on it, they add context, and then even if the wrong answer gets pushed to the top, eventually that answer loses power because other people who know go, hey, this is false, here's the source.
From Zuckerberg, he did a 5-minute video talking about what type of changes will be made, and it's also widely reported in the news cycle.
Why does he look both 16 and 50? This motherfucker's an alien.
But the gist of it is that they're dialing back their content moderation algorithms, reintroducing more civic content to the algorithm. That's probably going to suck, I can already feel it. Reintroducing more civic content to the algorithm. That's probably going to suck, I can already feel it. Eliminating their use of fact checkers in favor of a community-sourced alternative, similar to what Twitter is doing under Elon Musk. And a few more things that I honestly don't really care about because I don't use Facebook. The important thing here, obviously, is the removal of fact checkers, which hopefully signals a wider shift in the social media space. But let me explain precisely why I think that way, because again, the basic premise of fact checking is completely necessary in a modern digital world. I'll start with this. Facebook uses a well-documented approach to fact-checking, which relies on an organization called IFCN, which is the International Fact-Checking Network.
Yeah.
That system, however, was only implemented in 2020. Prior to that, Facebook used more direct partners, such as Snopes.com, for a
Yeah, Snopes is not a reliable source.
multi-year period ending in 2019. Interestingly, Snopes.com is actually one of the signatories for the IFCN, which means that Facebook is actually still working with them to a degree. It's just not a direct link between the two companies. Considering its direct partnership from 2016 to 2019 and its current approved status with the International Fact-Checking Network, Snopes is the example I chose to focus on for today while discussing the concept of fact-checking.
Yeah, because Snopes is incredibly biased. Incredibly biased.
Facebook is obviously doing this because it perceives fact-checking to be detrimental to its business by itself.
Let's be honest here. If you genuinely believe that any of these companies make decisions based on what they believe to be righteous, no. Wrong. Right? The only person that so far I will believe is actually willing to run their company based on what they think is correct would be somebody like Elon Musk. And I'm not saying that he is correct, right? I'm not saying he's a good person. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm not like making any value judgments on Elon Musk himself. I'm just saying I think he's the only one who could do that because A, he's got so much money, right? And B, he's just autistic enough, right? He's autistic enough to go, no, this is incorrect. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to do this my way because fuck you, right? Also, I think he genuinely believes that doing things this way is more profitable for him, which absolutely it could be, right?
If that means nothing, but one of the reasons directly cited by Mark Zuckerberg is political bias and loss of trust. Well, in order for Snopes to be approved by the IFCN, it has to go through an evaluation process, which has happened 4 separate times in the past 8 or so years. Twice during the time it was directly partnered with Facebook. Bear with me here. One of the criteria in that process reads, quote, "Non-partisanship policy evidence required. Please share evidence of your policy preventing staff from direct involvement in political parties and advocacy organizations." And
I think they failed at this one.
quote.
Like
And
hard.
this is very obviously on its face a good rule to have.
Yes.
Because when fact-checking on social media is so inextricably linked to politics every single day, you really can't have people arbitrating the truth that are donating to or directly affiliated with one side of the political spectrum.
Yes.
It's called bias, and even if that writer or the employer thinks that they're capable of being unbiased, they're not.
Nobody is.
Here's the problem. If you look at the actual assessment that was done here,
no single individual is capable of being fully unbiased, but an organization should strive to have influences of both biases as well as people who are biased towards both sides. Like, you need somebody who is right wing, you need somebody who is left wing, you need somebody who's in the center. You need everybody in that scale. That scale, you need people throughout it. You cannot just have people on one side, you cannot just have people on the other side. You need everything in between so that when you make an article, you can then check whether or not it actually is a straight article, right?
In 2018, which was during their partnership with Facebook, you can see the responses that were given by the person applying, or rather organization applying. Mm-hmm. And the response that Snopes gave reads, quote, "See the statements at the head of the staff page and the revenue page," end quote. That's it.
That's it?
Well, deciding to go down the rabbit hole.
That's not evidence. That's like, trust me, bro.
Because why not go down the rabbit hole? I went and looked at the staff page, where way down at the bottom, there's a note that says, quote, "Members of our editorial staff are precluded from donating to or participating in political campaigns, political party activities, or political advocacy organizations." End quote.
That's all. That sounds all. That is literally a trust me, bro.
Right? But something told me to start checking, so I picked a name and I checked. I picked Jordan Lyles, who is a senior reporter, obviously part of the editorial staff, working at Snopes for the past 8 years in various different positions. And I looked up political campaign contributions, which turned up this right here, showing a bunch of donations by people named Jordan Lyles to various committees and politicians. That's no big deal, but small problem. 5 of those donations in 2018 come from someone named Jordan Lyles, who was employed at the time by a company called Bar Dav. And this is where I went way far down the rabbit hole, because Bar Dav was apparently a joint company created by Barbara and David Mickelson, founders of Snopes, where each of them owned a 50% share. It's the
So they're lying. Okay, got it. So they already failed. Like I said, they immediately failed that
parent
one.
organization of Snopes.com. And connecting the dots now, Jordan Lyles, while working for Snopes at the level of video producer, was donating actively to Act Blue, which is a Democratic super PAC.
Gee,
And that was the first name I chose. From here, it got even worse. It kind of spiraled out of control because Bar Dav, the company, was subjected to a battle for ownership rights around 2016 because the wife, Barbara Mickelson, sold her shares to a company called Proper Media. I'm not going to get too bogged down right now, but that sale and the situations afterward eventually led to a lawsuit which contained allegations by Barbara Mickelson that her husband, Snopes founder David Mickelson, had been embezzling money.
Bro, what is with these motherfuckers?
Defrauding the company and spending the money on prostitutes. But wait.
Bro, why? You have a wife. Just bang your wife. I guarantee she'll be better than the prostitutes. It'll feel better. Trust me, bro. Plus, you won't risk a goddamn divorce.
There's more, because not only did David Mickelson divorce her, he also married another Snopes employee.
It's like these motherfuckers want to fail. Bro, what is your problem, bro?
Young, who,
I get it.
According to a
God
Daily Mail investigation,
she looks nice. She's nice looking. She's nice looking.
Advertising her services as an escort while she was working at Snopes.
Oh damn!
These are the.
Hey! I don't blame anybody for having a side hustle, right? I feel like we should all have a little bit of side hustle in our lives, right? Every single one of us needs a little something on a side, you know?
People fact-checking you. I'm still not done, because later down the line, in 2021, I shit you not, it comes out that David Mickelson, who still had his ownership stake in Snopes, served as an officer and apparently also worked for them in an editorial capacity, was suspended because he wrote dozens of plagiarized articles.
Bro, gorgeous.
Between 2015 and 2019, under an alias, and these are the people that are fact-checking you. Still not even remotely done, because if that was the domino chain I found after randomly picking a single name off of their staff list, what was I going to find next? Let's find out. The next name I picked, trying to spread out across various different positions, was the Chief Revenue Officer, Justin Wohl. One person shows up in the political donation archive.
That's the CRO, man.
Who simultaneously gave money to Act Blue, as well as the Biden campaign. But the employer of this person is Salon. I thought to myself, well, that can't be him. But that little voice came back in my head because this person working at Salon was also a chief revenue officer.
Yeah. It's one of those, go check. Look, there are 5 here. You should be checking these.
What are the chances of that happening? So I checked the LinkedIn page, and wait a second, Justin Wohl, according to his employment history on his own social media, simultaneously worked as the chief revenue officer at Snopes and Salon in 2020, which is when the donations were made. 2 for 2, and this time at least he chose a company other than Bar Dav to put on the public record for his political campaign contributions, which, I mean, that's a choice. You're employed by these 2 different companies, and you chose to put Salon. But anyway, we have 2 employees at Snopes,
that's
right?
2 for 2.
Mid and high levels, actively donating to a political campaign during an election cycle, while the website that they are employed by and help to operate is fact-checking at what seems to be like a very disproportionate ratio in my view. After that, I bounced between names for kind of a while, either finding nothing or being unable to directly prove that
Chris Richmond. I was like, is that motherfucker's name Chief?
Kind of a while, either finding nothing or being unable to directly prove that the person from the same state with the same name who said unemployed on their donations was actually the same employee working for Snopes.
Honestly, yes. If you're like trying to pass as somebody else, just say unemployed, brother. Just say you're no, I'm not unemployed.
Though it's very possible that some of
Just
them
lie.
were.
Like if you're already lying somewhere, you need to lie somewhere else, right? Because at that point, what are you doing, brother?
But then I found Anna.
You're like giving yourself weak spots. You're like giving yourself gaps in your armor so you can get shanked.
I have no idea how to pronounce the last name.
Anna Rakupa.
This is Anna, who is a straight up reporter for Snopes, as
Yeah.
in the people writing the fact checks. Well,
Yeah.
Anna comes up with a lot of small donations to Act Blue in 2020 with an employer listed as annual reviews,
Of
which
course.
it turns out is in fact the company that she worked for in 2020, according to her LinkedIn profile,
Oh,
which made
fucking
3
dude.
separate instances where Snopes employees, including those on the editorial team, were either actively donating to a Democratic super PAC during their employment or donated directly prior to their employment in that position.
Like I'm sorry. Here's the thing. If it was everybody making this mistake, okay, you know what? Sure. It's just 3 people. That means these are the dumbasses.
Remember, as per the IFCN criteria, Snopes was asked for evidence of their policy preventing direct involvement in political parties.
And they
It
didn't.
doesn't specify who or how or when, it just says involvement.
Yeah.
And sure, you could technically make an argument that donations directly prior to your involvement at a fact checking website for one political
No. It's like, oh, no, I'm sorry. You cannot hold this position because you had a criminal record 8 years ago. Right? That's a thing. That's a thing you're allowed to do. You are allowed to say, nope, you have a political record, a criminal record. You committed this crime 8 years ago. We can't trust you. We don't want you here. You can do that. By that logic, you can say, no, you cannot be on this team because this team cannot have any of this stuff. Oh, but I'm a really good writer. No, you're not. Go away.
party don't compromise you or violate the policy, or that donations that were made when you were a video producer or a C-suite executive at the company don't matter because you weren't technically on the editorial team per se. But after going down the rabbit hole on their founder, who was simultaneously serving on the editorial staff, plagiarizing articles for 5 years, and allegedly stealing money to buy hookers and marry an
Which is so fucking stupid. Like, motherfucker, stealing money from the company for prostitutes, and then you married one of them.
escort who was also employed by the company. I don't know. I think I'm fresh out of charitability here as to this company's credibility and their supposed effort to be the unbiased jury of truth. As I went about making this video, specifically the part about the founder, I read a really good quote from a writer at Forbes named Kalev Litaru, I think is how you say it. Here it is. Quote, "While technology pundits decry the black boxes of the algorithms that increasingly power companies like Facebook, they've forgotten that even the human-powered sites offer us little visibility into how they function.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it is clear that before we rush to place fact-checking organizations like Snopes in charge of arbitrating what is truth on Facebook, we need to have a lot more understanding of how they function internally and much greater transparency into their work." And
It's why it's much better to just let the people decide what the truth is. Let the people decide what the people believe, right? And when you do that, sure, sometimes truth is going to get buried, but we literally have this thing called the internet where you can go on motherfucking Google and you have all of the world's information right here. So what the hell, bro? Like, you cannot tell me that you genuinely believe that the entire population that witnesses something being said is somehow more prone to being misinformed or more prone to being biased or more prone to spreading misinformation than one guy that is confirmed to be biased, that is confirmed to want to spread misinformation, that can't be checked by the general population. Like, no, you cannot convince me of that. The only reason you would want that is if you want unfair power over the people and what they believe.
I like that a lot because after Facebook has now disbanded its fact-checking initiatives, a lot of people are crying and crying about how misinformation is going to be a huge problem.
Let me guess. all of those people are politically affiliated.
Spoiler, it already is a huge problem, and companies like Snopes do not help with that.
Companies like Snopes are the reason for that.
Mark Zuckerberg made very particular statements about bias and loss of credibility, which we need to understand comes after a multi year partnership directly with Snopes,
Yeah.
and then after a partnership with the IFCN, which verified Snopes as a trusted signatory on 4 separate occasions, despite the abundantly obvious political contributions that people all over their company have made and continue to make. I find it completely impossible to sit here and do anything other than flat out agree with Zuckerberg. Bias is a problem.
Yes.
Snopes, in my opinion, is very clearly biased. And I don't really expect to find anything different if I switch over to another fact checking organization, because the people that position themselves to do this for the past decade or two have repeatedly proven who they are. My final take on the situation is that fact checking as an underlying premise is completely necessary and extremely valuable.
Yes, but I think that it's best for the fact checking to be done by the people, for the people. I think the more we do things by people, for people, the better.
Having the ability to look at something objectively and discern truth is a skill set that everyone should have. But in place of that, if they don't, because not everyone does or even cares to, some sort of unbiased third party verification would be, in theory, amazing. Sadly, that.
Yes, but you can. Here's the thing, people on the internet have time, and if they don't have time, they will make time, right? They have no problem just going out of their way to going, this isn't true. Google, 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 Google. Motherfucker lied. Fact checked. Community noted. And you got that. You're right. You already have that. Just make the avenue for people to fact check themselves, and people will do so.
That's not what we have. Instead, we have a particular group of people who sought power for a particular purpose and continuously allow their own bias to infect the work that they do.
And by the way, if you think that that's bad, then you also think that the Greek forums, which are considered by the entire world, by the entire civilized world, to be the best expression of intellectual freedom, if you genuinely believe the community notes is bad, you also have to think that the forums of ancient Greece were bad. And if you think that, your opinion no longer matters because you're a fucking idiot.
Which led to a complete erosion of trust in basically their entire institution, which is now seeing significant steps towards abolishment. In an article from Wired, we see, quote, one editor at a US-based fact-checking organization that works with Meta's, who was not authorized to speak on the record, told Wired that Meta's decision is going to eventually drain us out.
Ha!
And further down,
Good.
stated by the director of the IFCN, which Facebook most recently worked with, quote, fact checkers have not been biased in their work.
Liar.
That attack line comes from those who feel they should be able to exaggerate and lie without rebuttal or contradiction.
As in the fact checkers.
End quote. But that statement from the director
Is a lie.
Fact check, false.
No. See, here's the thing. You can say that a statement is false when there is no malice behind it. When there is no knowledge behind it. Like, I can say, I think X. Like, I don't know. Like, let me think of an example. I think that I could probably beat a warthog in a fist fight. That statement is false. I am, however, not lying. I could do it. Trust me. I got the fucking meat in me to do it, right? I got it. I got that dog in me, you know? However, when my friend, who knows I'm going to die, looks me dead in the eye and says, yeah, I think you could do it. You should go fight that warthog right now. He is lying to me. All right? So that statement is not just false. It's a lie. I hate it when people use science as authority, considering science changes every day, and I'm an atheist who loves science. Science doesn't change every day. The idea that science changes every day is it's not like false per se, but it isn't a hyperbole, right? Because science doesn't change every day. Science expands, right? We used to know this much of science, and now we know this much, and tomorrow we're going to know this much. This is the same, as is this. These two things are still here. They didn't change. They didn't move. They're still here. This isn't retconned, right? We just added more context, and we're going to keep adding more context and keep adding more context until we get a fuller picture, right? It's like if I'm like this, the only thing you see is this eye, and then I move back, and I see more eyes, nose, mouth, the rest of my body, right? That's science. That's what we see as science, quote unquote, changing. Science doesn't change, right? Because truth doesn't change. Science is truth, right? Knowledge is truth. Now you can use science, you can use try to claim that science, says whatever it is you want it to say, right? And if nobody else can fact check you, if nobody else is allowed to read the book that you're reading from, you can say whatever science is. You can dictate that. You can basically decide what science is. But as soon as everybody can read from the book and everybody can go, okay, see, right here it says XYZ. Okay, but then there's also a W and a Y here. All right, but so if we're going to talk about this, it's actually W, X, Y, Z. Exactly. And that's how you get it. Sometimes we have to consider the backtrack, like in the case of nutrition. Yes, but here's the thing with nutrition, right? A lot of for example, the food pyramid. We could talk about the food pyramid. I actually think that the food pyramid is one of the best examples we could talk about, right? The food pyramid. Who made the food pyramid? Do you know? The food pyramid was actually funded by wheat producers, which is why the food pyramid said, no, no, we need more wheat. We need wheat everything in every meal. You need to eat more wheat, more wheat, more wheat. And you don't need to eat meat. You don't need that. You don't need that. Exactly. Lobbies. It was wheat producers. And then scientists were not scientists, but like medical scientists. I had to correct that. But like nutritional and medical scientists were basically not allowed to look into this without losing their careers for a very long time. And then it took people who created their own platforms on YouTube, on Twitch, on their own blogs, or on Spotify, and all of that. All of these things that put the power in the hands of regular people to talk about these topics. It took that for people to get out in public and say, well, actually, I've been researching this for a while, and yes, you need to eat meat. Red meat is not bad for you. Red meat is just more caloric than other meat. That's it. That's all it is. White meat, lower calories. Red meat, more calories. That's it. Beef is really good for you because it has high calories, it has high protein. If you eat enough of that, you don't need wheat. And there's a lot of people who cannot eat a lot of wheat because their system doesn't hold it. Gluten intolerant people, for example, right? Now, sure, you could just take the gluten out, but then that still leaves you lacking for carbs. You need the calories. Where do you get those calories? You get those calories from meat. Meat is really, 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 really good for you. You want to know how we got to evolve? By eating meat. You need to eat meat. You also need vegetables. You need those vitamins. But it's like, if you have a plate, right? About 30% of that plate needs to be protein. Then you need about 15% of that plate to be vitamins, vegetables, stuff like that. It can't be like I said 15, 50. 50% of that plate needs to be vitamins, like vegetables, stuff like that. You need to eat fruit. You need to eat vegetables. You need all of these things. And you also need carbs and calories. Carbs and calories is how your brain functions, right? But meat, protein, that's muscle. You need the muscle. Otherwise, you fucking can't move. You become these fat, blobbery bodies that can't do anything. And the food pyramid lived for so long purely because nobody could fact check the fact checkers. And so this thing is one of the best decisions that Facebook can make because it's once again putting fact checking in the hands of the people, by the people, for the people. Ansel Keys' bad science is what set off the low fat trend in the 80s, 90s. He cherry picked data. Exactly.
Because
Exactly. I simply continue the exactly. Once you only have one or two people in power, that one or two people can cherry pick the data as much as they want. They only tell you what they want you to know, and then they can misinform you as much as they want. Once everybody can talk, once you have a forum where everybody can put their ideas forward, everybody can talk, everybody can say, hey, don't forget this source, don't forget that source. Hey, but that source is actually very bad because it cherry picks data. Oh, I didn't know that. My bad. All right, shut the fuck up. You're wrong. Get out of here. Boo. Shoo, 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 shoo. Like that person leaves. Somebody else comes in. Hey, but actually, this thing takes that data, corrects it, and includes something else. So this is actually the most complete paper in existence right now. And everybody goes, oh my God, that's so interesting. And that's what is born from a forum, right? Once you have that, you have true freedom of information. Once you take that away, once you put it in the hand of Snopes, once you put it in the hand of the IFCN, you lose that. You now have a dictatorial basis of information where these guys that are unelected, that have not earned the public's trust, and in fact have lost it over countless bad decisions, they get to decide what the truth is. And when that happens, science doesn't change every day. Science is simply no longer being used.
Even the IFCN, at least according to what I see, is failing objectively to properly vet their partners.
It's not trying to.
And contributing to an atmosphere where the value of fact checking is now widely and rightly disputed. As it stands, the industry of fact checking has sustained.
Just look at the debate between, I think it was Trump and Kamala, where everything Trump said, whether it was true or not, was getting fact checked, even if just to say, fact check, that's actually true. So the only thing that was recorded by the media was everything Trump said was fact checked. That means he lied. Meanwhile, every time Kamala spoke, she was just allowed to speak, and she would lie, and people would fact check her on Twitter, on YouTube. People would go, actually, what she said here is untrue. What she said here is a lie. This is an exaggeration. This isn't true. Whatever. And I'm not saying Trump didn't do the same thing, right? Trump is a notorious hyperbolizer. He doesn't fully lie. I will say that. Trump doesn't fully lie, but he hyperbolizes a lot. And it is important to say, let's not hyperbolize here. Let's be factual. Like he's debating, he says, I'm the best. It's like, let's not hyperbolize. Let's say that you know these things, you're not the best, you're not an expert, you're not a scientist, you're not any of these things, but you know these things, okay? He's like, all right, yes, okay, I know a lot of people who are very capable of this, and they inform me on these things, and I can tell you Kamala Harris is an ugly, stuff like that, right? We have to keep these things objective. And when you only fact check one of the sides, you don't get objectivity. You get falsehoods. Just another weapon to censor people. Exactly. Once you start only fact checking one side, once you start only letting one type of people fact check, once you start only letting a certain very small group of people fact check, and everybody in that group of people seems to agree with each other, you have a problem.
Sustained a tremendous blow to its reach. Meta Platforms includes Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, which is a clear shift in the atmosphere of who gets to speak and who gets to speak about what. I have no idea if the end result of this new direction is a good thing.
It is.
No one really does yet.
Yes, we do.
But it's certainly not unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not unexpected.
I mean, the announcement was unexpected, but
yes. The announcement was unexpected. It happening when it did was also like surprising. It was a really bad PR move for Facebook to do it when it did, because now had they just come off as pussies, right? If they had done it either during the election season or before it as like a we are pro free speech, it would have been ballsy, right? The way they did it after Trump won, it just came off as cowardly. I take the Pyrrhonist, Pyrrho father of skepticism position. The truth is incredibly difficult to discover, and I'd hope this protects me from becoming dogmatic. That is a good way to go about it. I don't fully subscribe to skepticism. I think that when something is in front of me, I will believe it, and when I am given cause to not believe it, I will not believe it. But at the same time, I kind of take the Asmongold approach to some of these things, where it's like extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. You make a claim, okay. Let's see the evidence. Why do you believe that? Why do you believe that dogs can fly? Oh, okay. You threw a dog off a cliff and the dog flew. Can I see that? Did the dog survive? What cliff was it, right? You need that information. But at the same time, if you have the evidence in front of you, you should probably believe the evidence, right? If it's like what's happening in the UK, where I don't really like to talk about this because it's kind of like a really really dark topic. But in the UK, a lot of the Muslim population is involved in some very dark business, increasing criminality and a lot of predatory behavior towards women, right? And at the same time, while people are trying to protect the women in their lives, the police are being given orders not only to not do anything against these criminals and these rapists that are preying on women and children, they are also being given orders to strike against the people who are trying to stop the monsters in their streets, right? And when you do that, this is a hard topic to talk about because like I'm trying to keep it like summarized, but I'm also trying to like say the things that I'm trying to say properly and correctly, right? When you do that, when you do not punish a criminal just because that criminal is of a certain ethnicity, you create a bias against that ethnicity. When the first question you ask isn't did he do it? It's what type of what skin color are they? Where are they from? Where do they live? Now you've created a problem because now the question is no longer is this person a criminal? Is this person the correct type of criminal for me to punish? What about a woman who got a longer sentence speaking about her rapist and the rapist got for rape? Yes. Yes, that has happened. And it's like when a child escapes from a gang, reaches out to another man, that man takes her, rapes them, and then calls all his friends to rape her. And then the child escapes again and gets caught by another group that does the exact same thing to her, you have a problem. You have a problem. Because it's not just one group, it's not just a gang, right? It's one gang, and then she bumped into another man who wasn't affiliated with anybody, but he had all of these friends who were also just down to do this shit, and another friend who, and I'll be honest, if I find out one of my friends is doing that stuff, they're not going to jail, I am, right? And it's not going to be for sexual assault either. It's going to be for, fucking fixing something that needed to be fixed. Um, it, it, it is something that, to me, it sounds just unbelievable. The idea of participating in something like that, it makes my skin crawl. It puts fire in my veins, right? It disgusts me to my core that somebody would do that. And when instead of punishing the rabid beasts that hide amongst the men of a society, you instead punish the people trying to call out these rabid beasts, now all people see is, oh, you're only doing it because they're this color, so we now have a problem with everybody of this color. All that does is increase xenophobia, increase racism, increase all of these problems. Because your culture values are different than it's a problem with immigration. I don't even think that's the case. I don't even think that's the case. Also, got only interest in GDP. Yeah, that's a problem as well. But I don't even think it's a cultural problem, right? I think it's a problem of they feel they can get away with this, so they just do it. These animals go to these countries knowing they can get away with this stuff, and so that's why they go to these countries. Because here's the thing, the good people who happen to be Muslims, who happen to come from these places, who happen to have these cultural values, they're not involved with any of these shit. They hate them as much as we do. They hate these animals as much as we do. Nobody likes pedophiles. That's why they have to be kept away from the murderers. But when you don't allow people to talk about it, when you don't allow law enforcement to solve the problem, you create a new problem. And that's what this is about as well. This fact checking thing. It all connects. When only one group is allowed to decide what the truth is and nobody else, you do not have freedom of information. When you don't have freedom of information, you don't have truth. When you don't have truth, you live a lie. And when you live a lie, life becomes hell.
The loss of faith in the institution of fact checking is not unexpected at all, given how it's gone for the past few years. But yeah, it kind of feels natural considering how obviously the fact checkers have abused their positions in so many different controversial moments. That's it. The video title says The Death of Fact Checkers, which I believe may be true
They've been dead for years.
from an institutional perspective, and I'm not really sad about it.
Nobody
Community
is.
source moderation is a really good thing to try, so let's try it.
Yes.
I hope it works. Of course,
it does. It's worked for hundreds of years. It's always worked. Every time that you allow a community to fact check itself and you allow other communities to come in and fact check that original community, you get truth.
they do need to moderate illegal content and other severe infractions, obviously.
Obviously, but that's not fact checking.
Of course. But run of the mill theories, speculation, and opinions, especially ones that diverge from the common collective, yeah, we don't need people like Snopes over here to fact check that. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below, a special VPN deal, locals.
Yeah. Overall, good video by Upper Echelon. Very, very good, I think. It was informational. It was a good video overall. I liked it. I think you guys liked it as well. What do you guys think? Did you like it? If you liked it, leave a like. Let me know down below. If you want to see more of this stuff, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Cheers.